let's go to something we heard from Shine Big, our multimedia feedback survey that we use to talk to people via social media. So this is Jalen. Let's hear what she has to say.
College has always been the end goal of my academic career. Both of my parents are educators, so college has always been the only option for me. But even with my parents' backgrounds, it was still very difficult to maneuver a lot of the forms to finally enroll in college or to even get financial aid. For me, FAFSA was a nightmare to fill out. But education should be accessible for everyone, and receiving financial aid is a huge part of it. The way a lot of programs are set up now prevents many from receiving financial help, which stops them from getting their degree in the long run.
Laura, I was hesitant to say this because I didn't want to make my mom and my dad look bad, but they both went to. My mom was a teacher. She said hers were educators, and I remember the overwhelming and that stressful summer. What is this a common thing that you hear?
Yes, it's a complicated process, and you know, Jalen's right. It's, you know, the FAFSA is tough to figure out, and it's just a hard process to go through. So that's why it's really great that the St. Louis community came together and created the High School to College Center as a one-stop shop for students who have questions, where they can come and get help on complicated financial aid matters from really talented advisors from the Scholarship Foundation of St. Louis, meet with talented counselors like Shauna, meet other students like Deja, use the Bridget program, which we can text message them reminders about, oh, by the way, you know, have you gotten health insurance? If you're planning to live in a dorm, you're going to need that. Other things that they may not be thinking about, they may not be on their radar screen, just because there's so much to deal with the transition, and making sure you don't fall through the cracks.
Has it changed over the year? I mean, is it different than when I was in school, when our older viewers, our younger viewers even? Is this process changing dramatically?
There's about 60 tasks students have to do now with college enrollment. So
60?
About 60. So there's way more. So typically, years ago, I'm not going to date myself, but years ago when I went, a lot of the tasks that students have to do now were actually handled by the high school. But now with counselors being stretched thin and having really huge caseloads, all those tasks are now the responsibilities of the students. And so because of that, the number of tasks that students have to complete from acceptance to attendance has increased drastically.
Deisha, I'll go back to you. So when people come into the center, what are their stories still similar to what you were experiencing?
Exactly, yes. So people will be stressed out, and I'm actually there to greet them and to let them know, hey, I was in your shoes once, and kind of get to know them a bit. I can't know everybody's story word for word or the exact details, but to kind of get an understanding that, hey, I'm Deja, I was once a graduate, and I was once lost, and I overcame. So it's like a bonding experience to a certain degree. An understanding and a beneficial journey.
A person's ambitious and they have had the talents and all the things that have to come together, the good fortune to be accepted in the college in the first place. Is it hard to ask for help that summer?
Yes, because people want to believe that they got it all together, and when it doesn't seem so, it makes you feel bad. I know I felt horrible. I was an honors student. I just knew I was going to spell, man. And I had a lot of family members who were rooting for me. So it definitely takes a huge chunk of your pride to say, hey, I need help. But that is okay. And that is why we're here. And we're going to tell everyone out there that if you need help, just, you know, come.
We always say at the center that the hardest part of the journey for the next step should be crossing the threshold into the door of the center. That we should try to make everything else after that much easier.
Let's look at our Twitter poll from this week. So we asked people, what was the biggest hurdle for you when transitioning from high school to college? Hashtag AmGradSTL, got to put that in there. 52% financial aid. And again, does that go back to how things have changed in terms of, we talked about 60 things that people have to do. I'm guessing financial aid has changed as well.
Financial aid has changed, and so a lot of times what I'll find is students will fill out the FAFSA, and they think that that's done.
That's the federal form.
Yes, federal application for financial aid. And they fill that out, they submit it, they think things are taken care of. They don't realize that that does not cover the cost of attendance. Oftentimes what I see is more and more schools are communicating with students via email, electronically, and there are things that students need to do maybe to complete their financial aid process, and they're not following up on that step because they don't know to do that. They think they've completed the FAFSA, and that's it. And so that financial aid and not taking all those necessary steps is a huge obstacle.